Well, I just had to take a ride out to Whispering Heights. I just had to go. I love being there. It's such a great place. Oh, I'm not talking about the out in the woods or a place someone lives or even a house somewhere or a town or a city. It's something different than that. Whispering Heights is deep in your heart where you're able to you're able to have dreams and visions and thoughts and hopes and just everything that's in your heart that goes by is in your heart in Whispering Hills. And I've been thinking the reason I took the ride out here to go to Whispering Heights was because I've been thinking about Christmas. It's right down the road now till Christmas time, and boy, am I looking forward to it. But I've been thinking about my grandfather because there's some amazing stories that's been coming into my heart and my mind from Grandpa's day when, first when he was just a young fella and he built his own home, and there were even Indians that came out to see him, and he became friends with them, and we thought that was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. Grandpa actually did come to know the Indians, and there were pictures of him that we saw later in his life. Yeah. So Grandpa built a house out there in in Ohio, a place where he hoped that one day that he would have children there and a wife. And but for now, he was just a young man, and he would put it together: 2-bedroom house, a parlor, a place to make food, place to sit down and eat. No bathroom. Nobody had bathrooms back then. You had an outhouse. That's all there was to it. There wasn't much in the town at all where he was building the home. But as time went on, some people started to move into the town, and a little church was put there not far from his house. Not only a little church, but also, well, a little school right next to the church. And there's an old story about that church and that school. There seemed to be a family in town that, well, their children were kind of taking care of themselves because, mom was gone and dad was always working and never paying any attention to them. And so they were all by themselves, and they were always involved in things that they shouldn't be involved in. Well, like the one summer day when they had this great idea that what they should do is go out to where the train track was, and there was an outhouse near that train track, and they were going to tie the outhouse to the tree, to the train while it was sitting there. And then when the train would take off, boom, off would go the outhouse. They thought that was going to be hysterical. So, in the middle of the night when no one would be watching, that's exactly what they did. Or, that's at least as the story goes. They tied that outhouse to the train. They waited for the train to go off. It wasn't going to be long. But then the owner of the house, not realizing what the Jones kids had done, went to use the outhouse. And about the time he sat down in there, the train started off. And the kids, the Jones kids didn't know what to do. But the train took off. It blew a hole into the side of the outhouse, pulled it down. It was carrying down the road with the train, and there the man stood there trying to pull himself back together. And that story was told for years and years about the Jones kids. What time, was it? This happened when my dad and his sisters and his brother were just young people, and they didn't know what to think about it. But what about these Jones kids, anyhow? You know that one of the things that was always true was every Sunday morning when they would go to church, the Jones kids would go and they'd go out to the school right there, the schoolyard, and they'd make all kinds of noise and ruckus, and they thought it was kind of funny to make up, things going on while they're trying to have church out there. They didn't know anything about what that meant. It just made a ruckus and lots of noise. And Pastor Scott, Reverend Scott, he just bothered him so much that all he kept saying is, somebody has got to do something to put an end to these Jones kids stuff that they're doing. Wouldn't somebody please do it? And this went on and on and on. And then one day, about the time that the Jones kids went out and started playing, and Pastor Scott started crying about it and yelling about it again, Grandpa had to go out and use the outhouse. So he went out there, and I think as he walked by, he gave a little smile at the boys, thinking, were they really the ones that caused that outhouse to blow off by that train? I don't know. So he smiled at him and he walked into the outhouse. About this time, the Jones boys said, yeah, I'm kind of tired. Let's just go home. Well, Pastor Scott was really starting to preach then. He thought, wow, finally someone got those Jones kids and got them out of here. And he really started preaching his best. About the time that Grandpa walked back into the church building, sat down next to Grandpa, and Pastor stopped his preaching, looked straight at my grandfather and said, Brother George, you've done your duty. Well, Grandpa didn't quite know what to think about that. Why would he tell everyone why I went outside to the outhouse? That's not appropriate. And that bothered him the whole rest of the service until afterwards, when the pastor came up to him and said, George, thank you for going out there and telling those Jones kids to get out of here and go home. And, that's what this... And he was thinking, I didn't do that. They're just boys. They're just kids. And yeah, they get in lots of trouble, but their mama's gone and their daddy doesn't pay any attention to them. And I don't think they even know what church is. And then he had an idea. Christmas was coming. And he would invite the kids over to Christmas. And every year at Christmas time, right at Christmas Eve, Grandma and Grandpa would build the Christmas house, the little Christmas room, the Christmas room. They would build it up, and just in the little parlor area, they'd build it up so that it would be a lovely place for the kids to go in and to see the wonders of Christmas. And so this year they put it all together, and him and Grandma had made up in their mind that they were going to invite the Jones kids over for Christmas. And they didn't tell anyone, though. So Christmas Eve came, the kids all went to sleep. They built the little house, the little Christmas room, put in a tree, put in, all kinds of pretty little things on the tree, make it pretty. Put up pictures of Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the angels and all of the ones that came to see him, the wise men and the shepherds in the street, and had it all ready to go. And they would put this in such a way that no one could see it until they were invited to go into the little room and see the wonders of Christmas. And of course, there they had, stockings with some candy and things they normally couldn't have for Christmas, an orange and some nuts and things like that, and have it all ready to go. And this year, a picture of Santa Claus. That was going to be strange. So early in the morning, they had it all ready to go, and they were waiting for the children to wake up. And when the children did, they put them all in a row and said, "The Jones kids are coming for Christmas." What? My aunt said. The Jones kids are. Why would you have the Jones kids come to Christmas with us? Well, they need someone to love them. They need someone to teach them. They need someone to care about them. So we're inviting them. We have a stocking for each one of them, and some candy, and they're going to have meal with us, and they're gonna be good, and they'll find out what it's like to have a home and have a family. That's why they're coming. Wow, Dad, really? I mean, it's Christmas Day. This is our day. No, this is not our day. This is not just our day. It's for the Jones kids as well. So the Jones kids came, and one by one they went into the Christmas room, and they had an opportunity to see the wonders of what Christmas was all about. And each one of them thought, I get all of this, but why is Santa Claus? When the Jones kids went in, they got the Santa Claus, but all the rest they really didn't understand. So what is this all about? Well, Grandma and Grandpa went in and they told the Christmas story just the best that they could. Everybody got to open their stockings and get out everything that was for them, and everybody got a brand new pair of socks, to put with it, including all of the Jones kids. And what a wonderful, wonderful thing this was for them. But then I remember the story of how my oldest aunt looked at his mother and father and said, "Why Santa Claus?" And Grandpa said, "Why Santa Claus? Why wouldn't we have Santa Claus?" "Well, Santa Claus, this is about Jesus and Mary and Joseph and the Lord and the shepherds, and why Santa Claus?" Well, what you don't know, kids, is about 300 years, about 200, actually about 250 years after Jesus left the earth, there was this young boy named Nicholas who came to be, and he loved the Lord. But while he was a young man, his mama and his daddy both died, and he was left all by himself. He didn't know what he was going to do for himself, but then he found out that he was left a lot of money, and it would get him through into his adulthood, and he would be able to live with that money and make it through and become an adult and do the things he wanted to do in life. And that's why we think about him, because not only did he receive this, but Nicholas was so taken in by this that he wanted to see a way that he could take that money and take care of other people like himself that needed someone to care for him. And so the church, years and years later, started up this feast of Saint Nicholas around about the 10th of December. Later on, it just became something as a part of Christmas. And we would think back at what Nicholas did, and we began to call him Santa Claus. Santa Claus. And after all, wasn't Santa Claus being something like Jesus, the way he took care of people that needed? That's the kind of people we want, and that's how God wants us to live our lives. What a great Christmas morning that was for everyone. And I think it was at that point that the Jones kids first started to feel like somebody cared about them, that someone loved them. I think that's something that my dad held on to all his life long. Because by the time I came on the scene, and now that I was a young man, I was about 15 years old, Dad would always set up a beautiful Christmas, Santa Claus, all the stuff for Christmas, And one year he decided he wanted to go out and get a tree, take a tree off of somewhere, take it home and put it together. He had a friend named Herman, and Herman had a Christmas tree farm, and so we went out to farm to Herman's, and we got one. And on the way out there, I was thinking about all of the times when Mom would joke with Dad, because Herman and my dad loved to go fishing together, and whenever there wasn't any fish being caught, Herman would always say, any fish yet? And did you get any fish? You get any kind of a strikes? Get any strikes, Glenn? Get any strikes? And we would laugh about that for years. And on the way out to get the Christmas tree, I was thinking, I'm going to say something about that to him. I'm going to say, did you get it? Did you sell did you sell anything today? Did you sell any Christmas trees today? Did you get any strikes today? And I was all excited about that. We went out, we found a tree. It was a beautiful tree. Dad cut it down. We took it home, and was getting ready to take it home, and went and paid for the bill. Put the tree on top of the on top of the car, and started to ride home. And all of a sudden, I remembered, oh man, I forgot to say it. Did you get any strikes yet? And I said it out loud. Didn't realize that I had. And my dad said, "What are you talking about?" I said, nothing, Dad. Were you gonna joke with Herman about his fishing? No, of course not, Dad. Of course not. Of course I had been, and that's the way little boys are, young boys are. They think everything's a joke, and boy, was I glad I didn't say anything about that. Well, we went home and we got the tree put together, and in our house, it wasn't a Christmas room, but it was like a Christmas room. And we had a really nice little train set that we set there, an electric train set. It was fun, and I enjoyed it. We put it together and had everything right. Dad took a lot of time to he loved doing this and make it just beautiful, everything. And I remember the year that we did that, and Dad must have been thinking back the time when he was just a young boy, and the Jones kids came over, because Dad said, you know what, we're going to do something different this year on Christmas Day. Well, what's that, Dad? Well, we're going to have the girls from over at the home come over. The girls from the home? Yeah. Shelly and a couple of her friends with her. Shelly? You mean the girl with Down syndrome? Yeah, Shelly. Well, why would you do that, Dad? Well, they just live there, and they need somebody to love them. So there'll be three of them come. And we're going to have fun with them, and we're going to give them an opportunity to find out what it's like to have Christmas with a family. And Dad had to have been thinking back of when he was a young boy. And so Christmas Day came, and so did Shelly, and so did her friends. They all came, and Shelly was, and the Down syndrome, and it was kind of hard to deal with them, because they were like little children. They were well older than I. They were young adults by then, but they acted like little children. And all Shelly wanted to do the whole time was to play with the train set, and she'd get it going and go faster. And we say, not too fast. And every time she'd go so fast, it would fall over, and I'd have to go over and put the train thing back together. And I was starting to get frustrated with that a little bit, and then Dad did something kind of like his dad did, and he told the Christmas story, and then we opened our presents, and everybody had a present, and including those girls that were there with us, and they were so happy, and so they were so happy and so excited about the whole thing, and yes, they were being themselves, and then we sat down and to have dinner, and boy, did those girls eat. I thought, was that, and I made a mess everywhere, and I just couldn't believe it, but it was unbelievable. And Dad and Mom just kept showing them so much love. They've never forgotten that Christmas. And then just before the girls went home, Dad said what he did every Christmas, every year. Actually, as time went on, we started waiting for Dad to say it. But He usually said it after we opened the presents, but he waited until it was time for the girls to go home, and then he said, "Well, it's all over for another year." And we all started laughing. I remember that story, kind of like my dad remembered the story about when his dad had done what he did with those Jones kids. I was thinking about that just the other day. I was thinking about how this year at Christmas, I want to do something special, something for my grandchildren, and something for my children, that they might see that the generations of their family have all been generations that cared about people and loved people. And even in a time of the year when most people would say, it's Christmas Day, it's our day. No, that's what they would do. That's how they would do something to, and I would see my dad do a lot of things growing up for other people. I remember there was one boy that was on my wrestling team. His dad never came, and Dad always played the part of his daddy, and yelled for him and screamed at him and told him what a good job he was doing. And then we'd take him home, and Dad would get him some ice cream or something afterwards, and care for that young boy, and was like a daddy to him. It led me to thinking that that's what I want to be. That's the kind of person like my grandfather was, like my dad was, and like I should be, to care about people, even people walking through with a dog that's barking and giving him a hard time. And some people would scream and holler, but no, that's not the way to be at all. But to care for them. That's the Christmas room. The Christmas room isn't a place. It's something in your heart. It's something you care about other people. So this year, I want to tell them the story. I wanted to tell them the story of what their grandfather had done and what their great-grandfather had done. And I want them to grow to be all that they can be. That's what's been in my heart. That's what's been brewing in my heart all day. And that's the story that has brought me out to Whispering Heights this day. I hope you enjoy the story of the Christmas room.